This is The Naked Life with Roxanne Noor. Perfectionism is an extremely painful phenomena that is often glamorized and celebrated. And the light side is its quest for quality, for giving something to the world that has standards. And there is so much mediocrity out there. There is so much placing importance in things that don't matter. And sometimes I often feel suffocated by the amount of information that's out there that's just completely unnecessary and quite frivolous. And then this anxiety with giving something to the world, because there's also so much beauty. And with so much of the older literature I read, there is so much genius. So it's this inner battle of not wanting to put more mediocrity out into the world and then seeing the past with so much revelatory brilliance. And really, in terms of the arts, perfection is this kind of castration to creativity. To be perfect implies an end, but the end never really seems to come. And the fact that perfectionism, it's not an objective thing, it's subjective, and it's a distortion of the mind, because constantly we're evolving and our own standards are changing with this evolution. I have some friends who are artists and they'll have a piece and they won't know when to let the piece go. So they're just working and working and working on it. And then they ultimately destroy it when maybe a month ago the painting was ready to be birthed. They keep scrapping along and it becomes something that it wasn't meant to be. And ultimately it becomes dismembered, destroyed. I think as artists, we must also allow our mistakes to be interesting. And perfectionism is just this type of slaughter and mutilation over and over again instead of learning from the mistakes and allowing actually the mistakes to be fascinating. If we're just crippled by our mistakes, we end up going nowhere. If we allow the mistakes to just be questions that push us in the directions of our dreams, then mistakes aren't really mistakes. They're just a part of the process. Another part of perfection is its innate violence, this need to control. And in this need to control, there's always a type of striving that ends up in disappointment, and also this cut offness from the beautiful part of creation, which is the natural unfolding of the mystery and just allowing whatever to come through and being surprised actually with where our art takes us. And art really must have room for play and spontaneity because naturally it has less consequences than other professions like being a doctor or a lawyer, where so much is based on outcome. In the arts, there's room for expression, for possibility, for a fruition of our mistakes to be something beautiful. And in a culture of rigidness and uptightness and seriousness, and this claiming that everything matters, art is really laughing in the face of all of this. And we see this with postmodernism, is this lack of care of what the culture wants, but really what do I want? What do I want to express? What is coming through my individual lens, my story, my unique persona? So when there's more room for mistakes, there's this lightness of being instead of this collapsing under pressure, under stress. And we really see the way we work. And I think from the people I've noticed that are most successful, there is this element of play. There is this element of taking what they're doing seriously, but lightly at the same time. Because when we create a product, we're giving the world the energy behind it. I think it was Bell Hooks who said this, but what is our love but what is our work but love made visible? So our work, whether it's a painting or some kind of product, is really just our love made visible. It's made manifest. And then going back to the state of allowing art, making art really alludes to the humanness, the messiness of life. And what makes art good isn't it being perfect, because we all have different standards for perfection, but it's integral honesty. You can feel when someone's bullshitting, and you can see when something's coming from a completely real place. And art is this relationship of seeing ourselves in something. And we're able to see things when it is done from a place of just pure, I want to express. I want to put more of the world into the world, more beauty, more understanding. And it's an expression of really the moment and this honesty of the moment, and the fact that truth is always changing. And we see this with many great artists. What they believe metamorphosizes and changes as they do. I have one friend who makes really beautiful comics, and he says, yeah, when I look back on the comics I made 15 years ago, they're hypersexual, they're violent, they're something I don't relate to now, but they were necessary to put out there because it allowed me to make the art that I'm now making at this moment. And so we are constantly changing our values, what we deem as beautiful, even our belief system, our ideologies. They're constantly in flux. And to release art in the moment is to release who we were at that particular time, and to give way to the fact that it's not static. It's a fluid river. It is always changing, and to honor those changes and to let them be. Another gift of giving art to the world and not being constrained by perfectionism is this translation of what we can, like using the essence of what we want to say and really trying to articulate the wideness of our imagination into something that someone else can feel too. And sometimes when I'm watching things like, for example, a ballet to me is the pinnacle of perfectionism. If any of you have watched the movie The Black Swan, this is a perfect allusion to it, because she dies at the end from wanting so badly to be perfect. And you look at ballet and you can tell that they have rehearsed the same movement 5,000 times. And there's a beauty in that type of perfection, but at the same time, there's also a deadness to it, because it's not the spontaneity of the moment. It's not the aliveness. It's not the same feeling you get when you're watching jazz. And jazz is all about the improvisation. It's all about the feeling. It's all about the reading the room and listening to one another and creating something just from this ability to tune in to the moment, to the flow. And ballet is almost the opposite of the flow state. It's the rigor, it's the structure, it's the discipline. And there is definitely a beauty to that, but there's also a deadness to that. And yeah, I think we need to let go of perfectionism. And I'm also speaking to myself right now, because it is really a force that constrains us, a force that doesn't allow us to give our gifts to the world. It is the epitome of the inner critic personified. And really one of the best things we can do is allow. And even when I'm writing a piece or doing some form of art, the first thing I do is just purge. I just allow everything to come through and refine it later. And there needs to be this aspect of openness. And the openness is what allows us to receive the genius, the beauty, the brilliance of what we are. So The remedy to perfectionism is allowing the messy humanness, embracing what comes through, and then working with it and refining it.